And this is the opening if you've never seen the Brian Moreno Show before. This is a real show, Tate. I don't get it confused. Like, you came in here, had no idea. Well, and you hear this music. This was supposed to be just my holiday song for my opening.
Okay.
And I
Christmas?
paid $29.99 for it, so I'm still getting my money's worth. All right, I know.
Until July 4th, and then for July 4th, you get something else.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Brian Moreno Show. This is one of those wonderful interview shows that I don't do often enough, but you all seem to like them the most. This is the heart of COVID. I hope people are staying healthy. Today I have a very special guest in studio. Like, I have just met this person, and I have to say, I enjoy people who, like, when I hear their resume, make me feel lazy, like make me feel like less of a human. I like people who come in with big resumes and big recommendations and some type of gravitas, I suppose. Like, I enjoy.
Thank you for the compliment. That's the biggest compliment ever.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please let me introduce, and I hope I get it right. Tate Shahinyan.
Perfect.
Oh,
yes.
Tate Shahinyan. God, I was nervous in my hands. I was slightly palm sweat right now.
That's perfect.
Trying to get the last name right. Tate Shahinyan.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for joining us in Studio 51 today.
Thank you for having me.
Our little show we do here. I know some about you, but I don't. From what I've learned in comedy, like, I can mess up a name and a resume really good. Like, like when somebody's like, okay, introduce me like this, I can mess it up with the best of them, Tate. So tell us about yourself, who you are, what you do, what got you into Studio 51.
This is the part that I don't like most, but
we're gonna have to power through.
Let me try. So yeah, I'm Tate Shahinyan. I'm one of the I'm co-host of one of the morning shows, the morning show of one of the Armenian networks. So yeah,
And what is the network? What is the network? What is the show? Get specific with me.
You want names? Okay.
Well, because I'm gonna really get into some of the Armenian stuff,
okay.
but before that, I want to know, like, about you, like, because I don't know. I know a paragraph bio, and what I know is that you've had, for you to get right here into this chair, not only have you had to overcome a lot, but you've had to work really hard, and you have a good head on your shoulders. And I want to hear the story of what you've had to go through in order to get here, because I think if one person can learn from you, then wonderful. Then you've left a little ripple in the pond of life,
That would be great. Yeah, well, the show is called PanArmenian Morning. So it airs every weekday on USArmenian TV. And it's me and my co-host. So what we do is the few hours before the show or the night before, we gather all the last news, the information, what's happening in Armenia and around the world in U.S. Recently we've been talking a lot about the coronavirus, obviously the situation in Armenia. And and then we present it in a form of discussion. So it's just me and my co-host sitting in the studio talking. And I guess the best thing about our show is that there are no topics that we're not allowed to talk about. We talk about everything that we think is important, and that's something that I'm grateful for, because it's nice to know that you have that freedom, the freedom of speech, especially on TV. Sometimes there are topics that you're not allowed to, but that it's not preferred for you to talk about. But for us, it's a free space to discuss whatever we want to. Now
that's a huge platform for for you and I'm sure a lot of people who support the Armenian cause. Like, it's a very important job that you have. Now, you brought up a few things that I find very interesting in your story. That I think maybe you left out. Like,
okay.
because you worked your way up the ladder to get there. All right. Now, and
yes.
you didn't
come. Yes and no. I got like, I should say, like, I did get lucky too, because
now luck is just when preparation meets opportunity.
Okay.
So
I like that. Thank you for saying that.
No. Mm-hmm. It's as someone who certain times in my life that same adjective has been used to describe, and I'm very big into self-introspection. In order for me to figure out you, I have to really understand me.
Yes.
And and it's especially in my comedy, if the world ever comes back and you get to see me on stage, you'll probably be like, oh, it's not much different than the show.
It's the same in real life.
The same shit. So, okay, you got to America
when I was 18.
When you were 18.
Yes.
And I'm not going to ask how old you are, in case like it's a long-running lie. I don't need to out you here.
I changed my passport.
Yeah,
I changed
like,
the number. Once I
need...
got the citizenship, I was like, oh, no, let's change the date of birth, too.
Yeah, I don't need problems. Okay, now you got to America at 18.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Yerevan, Armenia. And, yeah, I moved here when I was 18.
And what is the capital of Armenia?
Yerevan.
Yerevan? Oh, I thought so. I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Now, was this the place that was the capital that was kind of stormed recently, kind of like they did here?
Stormed? Yes.
Yeah, see, now I know, like
wow, impressive.
Yes, I'm not uninformed. I do a weekly news. This is the Brian Moreno Show, but there's a lot of different colors of the rainbow. And every Thursday I do a news show because I'm such a news head. But I broker in the opinion business very much like you do.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you say, and this is another we're going to get into a lot of the stuff that you kind of have freedom of speech. Well, you're still coming from a very particular point of view.
Yes.
Yes. So as much as it is free, there's another side that's like, oh, she's full of shit. No, and I know that.
Yeah.
No, and so, but that's.
I guess that's what my job is. I guess our viewers are a specific group of people that we have to cater to. So as much as we try to be unbiased, and I try to be unbiased, of course, I come from a very specific cultural background, and as my job dictates, I do, also stay within this.
Now, I'm pulling up Armenia and Azerbaijan just so people who watch the show that may not be as informed.
Yes.
Okay. So here's Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Yeah.
And then this is all Russia up here. Now, the problems came in this area, and correct me if I'm wrong in any way, and I'm just giving very simple overviews, is this area right here, basically, where...
Yes.
And
that's Nagorno-Karabakh, or as we call it, Artsakh. Yes.
Oh, yes. And it's because the Russians basically just redrew the maps when Russia started falling apart, as Russia does every 50 years.
Well, it wasn't Russia particularly, it was Soviet Union.
Okay, sure, okay.
So I don't want to, Russia's done a lot of
Okay, no, that was when the Soviet Union fell apart.
So Stalin, he decided that Nagorno-Karabakh is going to be part of the Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan back then. And he was like, oh, this land is populated with Armenians, but let's give it to Azerbaijan, because I think for like political reasons that was, I can't remember that now, but there was some reason behind it.
And where do your parents live?
My parents are here right now. Like,
are they?
They moved here with me, but we come from Yerevan. But originally, part of my family is from Western Armenia, which is where Turkey is right now, and part of my family is Eastern Armenian.
Okay.
So there's the division between Eastern Armenian, Western Armenian, and like if you want me to go into history.
Well, it's so that area there's been so much conflict. Like your whole life, you kind of knew conflict.
Oh,
right?
Oh, generations and generations. That's something that actually I'm very interested in, like kind of intergenerational trauma, because looking back, all of generations in my family, and it seems like for all Armenians, we've all seen some kind of conflict. We've all seen some kind of war. And I think we're all traumatized by that. I mean, now that I know that it's very traumatizing. What happened this year in 2020 was horrible. And unfortunately, my parents have seen war, my grandparents have seen war, and my great-grandparents have seen the Armenian genocide. So, yeah. We are between like Europe and Asia, so whatever happens right in the middle, and that's where Armenia is.
Now, I guess my big question for you is because do you consider yourself a journalist?
Yes and no. I'm a linguist. That's what I went to school for. I went to UCLA and got my BA in linguistics. But then I guess when I started working for the network, I did have to learn journalism. So I don't call myself a journalist. I guess I'm a TV anchor more than a journalist. But yeah.
Now that part of the world, man, we'll get into some of the larger questions that I have, but I like to be solution oriented.
Okay.
And I don't know what a solution is for an area where you have generational people, but you also have, families who are like, this is my home too. Like, I mean, yeah, you've been here for, your family's been here for however many generations, but I had my kids in this house, like, it doesn't.
That's very hard. And honestly, like, there is no simple solution. It's something that I guess we as a nation and as a community, we've tried to find a solution for it, but it doesn't seem to be that easy, because even when talking about Artsakh, yes, the land was given to Azerbaijan. So when you talk politics, it does belong to Azerbaijan because just one person decided that it does. But if I'm not mistaken, 93% of the population that lives in Artsakh is Armenian. They identify as Armenian. So they're like, why do I have to be under the rule of country that I'm not part of? I've never been historically. So, yeah, that's where the recent conflicts, raise from.
Now, are you famous in the Armenian community?
Famous?
Well known.
People know me.
Yeah.
People know me. It's people who wake up early in the morning know me.
Sure, like you can't go to Porto's in the morning and not get something for free.
No, I can't.
No,
I wear a mask,
Okay. Now,
it's actually very awkward when people recognize me. It's still so new to me that when people recognize me, I'm like, oh, you watch it, because it's just like this. I sit there, and there's a camera in front of me.
Well, you don't really know how many people you're affecting.
I don't see the reaction. I just know there's the idea that people watch me, but I don't know that. But then when someone comes up to me on the streets and says something that I've said on air, or like a comment on Facebook that responds to what I said, I'm like, oh, you actually listen to what I'm saying.
Well, that's why I said your job, you carry a lot of responsibility. Like you do. Like you, things that you report on, for lack of a better word, that you discuss, it comes through a particular filter. And just as we've seen very tragically, that someone in a position of power can really incite either violence or can be solution oriented and actually bring people together instead of tearing apart. And I think as strongly as your opinions are, I don't know where you stand, but I know there's recently been a ceasefire, and there has been kind of an unprecedented, since Turkey teamed up with Azerbaijan,
Yes,
basically.
Turkey helped Azerbaijan, yes.
They helped their military tremendously.
Yes.
Armenia has basically wanted to stop the bloodshed,
Yes.
which, is very noble, but there's a lot of people it puts in the gray area. Do you think the peace is going to last? Whatever that means, peace, because the Russians now have troops there. Turkey has troops. I don't know. I don't know.
I hope that peace is going to last because what happened was tragic for both sides. And I can only speak for my people, and if I can. But yes, we're talking about land, and that land is very important to us. Particularly if you look at the map, Armenia is very small. Like we've lost so much. Like we get small. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, we are afraid that one day we're just going to be taken over and we're going to lose the only land that we have. But at the same time, when you hear and when you see of people, soldiers passing, and we've basically lost a generation. The guys that were born in from 1998 to 2002, 2001, the ones that were serving in the army, we lost that generation, unfortunately. And it is just, again, for a country that has only about 3 million population, that's a huge loss, and we can't afford another loss like that. And I do hope that peace is going to last for at least for a while until we can find a solution. But hopefully war is not going to be the solution.
Now, do your parents, where do your parents stand on this? Because they, just time speaking, they spend so much more time actually there on the ground. And
because this Artsakh war was not the first one; it was actually the second one. Because in 1991 there was the first Artsakh war, and my dad was he was there in the front lines, and my godfather was there, and I have family that was actively involved back then, and it's very hard to say because I know that, for example, my dad didn't agree with the agreement that was signed because we lost the 5 regions based on that agreement. But at the same time, I think it's more of we all understand that the war needed to be stopped. So it's more like an inner issue with how our politicians handle the situations and why. I know a lot of people are talking about why it wasn't signed earlier because we had 44 days of battles. So we're okay, if you were going to sign that, and talking about our prime minister, if you were going to sign the agreement, if you were going to give up the land, why didn't you do on day 2 when we hadn't lost 5,000 soldiers? So if this eventually was what was going to happen, why wasn't it stopped before? Or why did we spend 30 years now preparing for this war? Because we obviously knew that we have an enemy that's, preparing, that's getting stronger and stronger with each day, and we kind of missed the opportunity to also do the same.
It's very it's very tough being. Now, you were raised in wartime.
I was born born in wartime.
It's very tough on parents, I would think, and especially now that would you say you're a moderate when it comes to compared to your parents then?
I guess so. Yes. It's talking
your parents
about,
would be considered hard line, whatever that.
I guess I don't want to say my parents, but I would say their generation.
Their generation. Yes. Well, because always.
My parents do have the experience of moving out of Armenia and moving here, so I think their perspective is a little bit different too from people who are currently there, who continued living there, and even parents who lost their sons. It's a very different, and it's a very hard situation to be in. So I think, in speaking of me and my family, I know we have an opinion, and I know we do voice it, but at the same time, I'm trying to be very mindful that my voice cannot be louder than the voices of people who are there, who have actually partaken in the war, who've lost their husbands, sons, brothers, And yeah, I think they're the ones that have to kind of decide or say if this was the right decision or no. Because it's very easy for me to sit here in LA in my comfortable house and be like, no, this was the wrong, or like, you know.
I was going to bring that up because you are kind of removed. Yes. And I'm sure some hardline people, maybe the people from your parents' generation, sometimes they wag their finger at you. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's not been there. She's not had someone die in her arms. Like, and you can try to take on as much of that as you can in your reporting. But that being said, it's like, you also, as a new generation, it's our responsibility to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, and we all know that when you dig up the past, you get dirty. There's no two ways about it.
No, definitely. And I was born after the independence of the Republic of Armenia. My parents were born during Soviet Union, so my experience, my childhood was very different from theirs. And growing up, I grew up with that like nationalistic ideas and propaganda, were like, oh, Republic of Armenia, free and independent, and we have Artsakh that's with us because, you know, we won it over, and now they're with us, and that's where they belong. And honestly, never in my life I imagined that we would lose those regions, that at some point in my life we'll see war again, because I don't know why. Maybe it's the way I was raised or the people I was around. It just seemed like, yes, the war happened, but it happened because like that's what was happening in the world right now, and now we're in the 21st century and things like that can't happen anymore.
How long has your show been running?
The show has been running for years, but I've been on the show for like 8-9 months.
Okay, so you're new in your position.
Yes.
Wow, so you're getting recognized after 8-9 months. After 8-9 years, you're going to have to live in the valley in a private little area, no autographs. Wow, so it is a long-running show.
Yes.
And the name of the show is, say it again?
PanArmenian Morning.
PanArmenian Morning. Now, have your political views changed since working and starting on the show?
No.
And anyway, like, have you, like, you were pretty set in your political views starting your job at the network?
I would say like my political views didn't change. I just became more invested in them.
Okay, so that's a great. No, you keep talking. There we go. Yeah, we just had a little sound. Oh, that scared Daddy to death. Yeah, like, I'm good with this stuff, but when things just start turning off, oh yeah, my blood pressure spikes. Now, okay, so you've become more, I don't know where it cut off, but you say you've become more invested in your political views, and I think that's a great way to put it.
Because I would still, like, as an Armenian who lives in LA, I would still follow the news that are happening in the region in Armenia, and I would still kind of know about like the situation there. But as I started hosting the show, of course, part of my job is to actually read the news and actually know what's happening, and in a way also have an opinion about it. And if you want to have an opinion, you have to know the backstory too. So it's not just like reading one piece of information and then having an opinion about it. It's about, okay, I read about A, let me read the history of A so I can have an opinion about it, because if not, then you're just, you know, who would listen to you then? Yeah,
and it's like a take. Like, in order for you to have a real take, sometimes you have to process a lot of information to really make up your mind and have an opinion on, and an informed opinion.
Yes, exactly. And it's very important, because that's when people listen to you. If not, then you're just another person that's talking, that's like going live on Instagram and Facebook, then you're not any different.
Oh, but 100%. Like I not only live and die by that. I promise you that you are well beyond where I was. However old you are, like it took me a long time to really understand that, because so much of this life, and especially because of social media, it's for so many people, it's about affirmation. It's not about information. And that's why I say, like, I like not only being impressed by people that make me feel lazy, but by different points of view. Even if it's something that I don't agree with, I like to know why and how you got to where you got in that particular thought, you know, and that sometimes takes patience and investigation, and it takes will.
Yes. Actually, I had to learn that too on the show, because I have a co-host, and sometimes we have different opinions. We will read the same piece of information, and we're like, oh, this is how I feel about it, but he feels differently about it. And sometimes we do argue on air. Live. Now,
are there any shows with an Armenian and an Azerbaijani?
No.
Oh, that would get bad.
That would never happen.
This is good. Like I knew I would get to some good questions. That would be a good YouTube show. You'd have to do it in separate. They'd have to be a Zoom show, right?
Yeah, I think it'll get removed from all platforms. Like, yeah.
Now, do you have to worry about censorship? Like, do you like getting suppressed? Because I don't exactly know. If where does the U.S. government, who do they support the most in this conflict?
Oh, that's a tough question. They don't support, I guess, either side, but at the same time they do sell weapons to Turkey.
And those weapons go to Azerbaijan.
Yes.
Ah, very interesting.
Recently, they did stop. They banned the sale of weapons to Turkey, but I'm not sure if it's like when it goes in effect.
But so many weapons have already changed hands too. It's not, it's like a lot of this is just talky, much ado about nothing.
Yeah. In terms of Armenia, because we are mainly supported by Russia, and there's the Cold War between Russia and the U.S. U.S. doesn't support Armenia much.
So 8 months, yeah, okay. And in 8 months, I guess quite a bit's happened. So September is when
September 27 is when the war started.
And then the ceasefire.
44 days after
was this okay?
Was the agreement.
Okay, yeah. See, I even have my notes here, but I remember these things. So yes,
Thank you so much for being, for being so informed and reading about it. I'm so impressed.
Oh, well, you don't have to thank me for that. I mean, but I too am very much from the school of thought that I have to push my brain. Like I can't allow the powers that be to tell me how to think and what to think about, and being worldly informed, I think, is extremely important, because especially living out here in Los Angeles, people get very isolated, like almost like they're on an island. And that's not why I got in the business. And this last year, so many things have changed.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Like seriously. So you have 8 months been working as the host.
Yes. I joined the network before that.
Did the previous host get corona and you jump in? Because you have been the pandemic host.
Yes. I started right after. Well, I started in, I think, beginning of May. Yeah.
Yes.
So right after the lockdown, the first lockdown, I got a call from our president. And I mean, as I said, I was with the network before that. I just never.
And what was your position before on air?
I was the executive assistant. So I was assisting the executive producer.
Oh, so that's the thing. Like, you see there's a big difference from on-air talent to executive producer. Like, the responsibilities are different. The way people treat you are different. The way people look at you
Yes.
are different. Seriously, they're.
Yes. Oh no, it's very different.
I mean, and as much as it is a wonderful job, I'm sure you also experience jealousy.
Haven't experienced that yet.
No.
Yeah.
Because and on air, people. So it's not, for one, it's not made for everyone. I'm going to tell you. Look, I've been in LA a long time and learned from my mistakes. Like, there are certain people that when the lights come on, that's all they want to be is there, but they don't understand the work, all the work that goes in to when before the moment right before the lights go on, and that is the big difference. And you obviously have been putting in work, so you get here at 18. How's your English at that time?
I did not know English.
None?
None. Almost none. Yes.
So
I went to a German school in Armenia. So I knew Armenian, I knew Russian, I knew what did I say? Armenian, Russian, German, and then I was studying Turkish. Yes. When my parents decided to move here, and then I took some private classes before moving here, but that obviously was not nearly enough. And yeah, I had to start from zero.
Did you watch any what was the television show that helped your English the most?
How did you know?
Well, my mother's from Bogota, Colombia, but I've talked to enough people, and I know, like, when I go to other countries,
one show, right?
Yeah, there's always something. You're like, okay, I can get a couple words here and there, and I know this is the mom and this is the dad, and like when you can clearly, it's usually soap operas or something where the roles are clearly defined.
For me, it was How I Met Your Mother on Netflix.
Okay, so that, I guess the roles are clear. Now, who's in this show? Because as much as I take in, I didn't watch a lot of How I Met Your Mother. I have to just tell you. So who's in this show?
Oh my God, I'm gonna butcher their names.
No, I'll look it up. No. I have a.
That was my favorite show, and I was watching it with subtitles, and that's how I started learning words.
Oh, with the see. Done.
Yes.
Okay.
Subtitles, songs. I've listened to a lot of songs.
Oh yeah, this is How I Met Your Mother right here. This is. Oh, Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes,
I used to have jokes about Neil Patrick Harris. This is So you learned English. You were going to UCLA.
Well, I learned English before going to UCLA. I went to community college.
Okay.
I took classes there. Yes.
Okay.
And then I was working.
Yeah, there's something, a power plug that I think I'm touching, and I gotta tell you, I won't move. Yeah, I will not move.
I was going to community college. I was working full time. So yeah, that's how I also learned English.
Now, what was your first job then from Armenia?
My first job, what was it? Oh, I was working for an Armenian magazine. I was like typing the articles. So that was kind of like a part-time job on the side. And then my first job where I had to speak English was a receptionist at a laser hair removal place.
Oh.
I don't want to name it.
No problem. No problem.
I don't know you want details.
Yeah, maybe it's the one I go to. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I had my lines memorized. It's like, hi, how can I help you? Do you want to make an appointment? Something like that. I was like.
And then when people would throw you for a loop and you'd have to be like, I don't know what they're saying.
Like, just figure something out, say something.
Wow. So you go to community college.
Yes.
So then at 18, where is that in scholastically? Like what, is that going freshman year of college?
When I started UCLA, you mean?
Well, no, like when you moved here. I don't know what.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes, I was a freshman at a university.
Okay,
yes,
at a university. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So
that's where I was studying Turkish. Yeah, I finished high school, and then I got accepted to the Yerevan State University, Turkish department, because I knew German, and German was the language of our enemies too, and because of World War II. So
wow.
I was like, oh, let me learn the other language of our enemy. I'm so like.
Well, I mean, no.
Yeah, well,
It's
honestly,
you
that
like
was my.
you like to be informed. I can
Yes.
tell you.
I liked languages, and I liked history. I like languages. I like to be informed, and that was my way of. And like I grew up knowing about the Armenian genocide, and I was like, oh, a lot of our archives are either in Turkish or in German, and I want to read.
Well, that's very. What was the first language you learned as a child?
Armenian.
Like, besides Armenian, well, the first this.
Well, I didn't learn
Second,
Russian.
well, I guess what's the second language?
The first language that I had to study to learn was German.
German.
Yes, Armenian and Russian. Just I guess I acquired growing up because that's the two languages that my parents spoke, and that's the language that I was around.
So fascinating, and it's so wonderful that you learned as a child. They say that the brain, as you get older, different parts of the brain get activated when you try to learn language.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's. I studied linguistics at UCLA, so that's something I can tell you.
Yes.
It's theory. It's called universal grammar by Noam Chomsky, and what he says is that if you actually acquire a language by the time you hit your puberty, what it means is that you don't spend energy or like much brain power learning that language. It just like your brain is a sponge, and it just soaks in everything you hear about you. I mean, yeah, around you, not about you, not necessarily about you. And then after that, it becomes harder to learn the language, to memorize. Then actually you have to like sit down and study the language to know it. And what he says is that if you learn a language after puberty, you'll never be as proficient as a native speaker. In my case, because I learned English at 18, I think I will always have like an accent, or always have those words that I just cannot.
Well, for like I say, for however long, no, it's
That's about 10 years. Yeah.
Well, no, your accent is what it is, but it's also your ability to speak so many languages is so incredible to me. Like my sister has the same ability as you to speak a lot of different languages, and it's definitely added to a lot of her worldly experiences. And I think that's priceless.
Thank you. It helps you become, in a way, part of the culture. Because I'm not German. I don't identify as German, but somehow I relate to German culture.
Oh, because your ability to speak it.
Yeah, because I was introduced to it also as a child.
I don't like how, and this is totally getting off subject, but German engineering or German architecture kind of came into LA, and some of these buildings look like we're in East Berlin. I don't. I don't know. So I think that you have had such an amazing path, because you kind of prepped yourself for this position to be able to talk the way you do, like about like you very I don't know if it comes from your parents or it's something that you just have, but you were very culture centric, I guess, is a way, like, because my mother from Bogota, Colombia, like a lot of people left Bogota for brighter pastures, for safer places. And I, as much as I do identify as Hispanic because of some of the way that they just wanted to assimilate into America, I didn't take on, like, I could never be the voice of Colombia. Like, it would be so inauthentic. Plus my Spanish, like, this guy is mentally not.
But you were born here, right?
Yes, absolutely,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's the difference. I wasn't born here. I moved here when I was 18, so I already had that identity.
But a lot of people, when they move, they just want to get away. They want to, especially when they come to LA, they want to change who they are. They want to pretend they're not. No, and you don't. Like, you seem very true to who you are. And I think that is I think that is an extremely difficult and rare thing, you know, because a lot of people, they try to put on different masks to pretend. And I think one of the things that I do see in the Armenian community is people are very proud.
Yes.
And they are very proud of their Armenianness.
Yes, we're taught to be proud of.
Okay, and that's
yes, I think it does come from our parents, and from generation to generation, we are taught to be proud of who we are.
Yes, and see, that's the thing.
We have a lot to be proud of.
I guess that is something, you know, being born in America, I'd say I'm a proud American, just by proxy, by default, because I'm here. But I think it's very nice that when people are proud of their cultures. I wonder, did your parents like the fact that you got this job?
Yes.
Yeah?
They weren't against it, yes.
Yeah, and with some of your opinions, have they been not so hot with you?
No.
They agree? Like,
I think for the most part,
do you think
agree.
About that sometimes?
They
You're like,
give me
well,
feedback, but
will my mom be pissed if I say, like, does that ever come, like, in your brain?
No, honestly.
Because when I first started this show, my mom would be like, you say the F word too much.
Oh.
And I stopped, but this is a YouTube show. Like, it's a show. But sometimes
I don't have that problem because we are on TV.
Yeah, you are on TV. But then I'm
like,
you're probably right. So
they do give me feedback, and sometimes I can't say I disagree with it, but sometimes I take it to account, but I might not do as they tell me.
Okay, yeah, see, that's what I would wonder, just because they are so proud and good relationship with your parents?
Yes.
See, that's very nice and important.
I'm very close with my parents and with my brother.
That's very good. How many brothers and sisters?
I have only one brother.
Okay, older, younger?
Yeah, he's 7 years younger than me.
Really? Does he look up to you?
I hope he does. I look up to him because he's successful in his way. He's a student at USC. He studies aerospace engineering.
He went to USC?
Going to USC.
Didn't that disappoint you a little?
We are house divided. Okay, we don't talk about that. It was like blue and red.
Yeah, that's like going to Azerbaijan University, right?
No, it's not. No. No. But yeah, I'm very proud of him, and I know moving here was hard for all of us in different ways.
Now, how what was the first, did you want to move?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And growing up, we kind of always had the opportunity to move, but I never wanted to, and especially move to the U.S. because I didn't speak English. For me, I guess like Germany and Europe was more.
Were you
option.
Well, like when you were packing your stuff up, was it a rush? Like, were things bad? No.
We weren't running from anything.
Okay, that's yes.
Yes, we were moving here for.
It makes the story better if you were running from something.
Sorry.
No, Hollywood.
Let me retell my story.
If your story ever makes it on TV, you're running from something. Okay, I assure you, they will Hollywoodize that.
Note to self. It was. My parents came here for I think about a month as like tourists to see what's here. But,
yeah.
If they like it, then they came back. They said, okay, we like it. Let's go.
Oh, so they did a run through of LA.
Yes. But I mean,
did they bring you guys?
No, it was just the two of them.
Wow. So they were just like, pack your shorts and light sweaters. Right?
Yeah, my dad would once a year before that ask me, do you want to move? I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't want to move. And then in 12 months, he would ask me again, do you want to move? I'm like, no, I don't want to. And then one time he asked me, I was like, do you want to move? And my answer was yes. And because, I was just very disappointed by a lot of things that were happening there. And I felt like, I don't want to sound full of myself, but I felt like I have a lot of potential that's not being used. And I just wanted more. Oh,
so you also kind of think that the job is manifest destiny? Kind of. You do. No. I mean, no, absolutely.
This is not what I imagined.
And that's not being that's not being full of yourself. No, it's sometimes life is, it's this giant river that we're just on this tiny little raft, just trying to make it. And if you feel like you're stuck, behind a boulder or something, you got to get around it,
Yes.
And you can't, as much as we prepare and think we want certain jobs and things, wherever the universe pushes us is sometimes all we get. And that is, and it's not when I say all we get, it's like we get what we need, just like the songs we do. And you, I think you were primed and ready for a position like this, and you were also eager. Now, when you get the call, talk me through that day when you get the call.
Well, I think it was weekend, Friday or Saturday. I wasn't working because of the lockdown.
Yes.
I wasn't going to work.
Had you been working?
No, not for the past, I think, month and a half. Because of the lockdown, we had to, close down the building and our office. Because I was the, executive assistant at that point. So, obviously, all the productions were shut down. So there wasn't much happening.
Sure.
And I was home. The president of our company, of our network, called me. And I knew of the show, obviously, because I'm in the same building. And the host, Rafael, he was like, hey, do you want to join him on the morning show? I was like, huh? What me?
Just out of the,
Yeah. I was like, me what? And he was like, yeah, I think you'll do good. Why don't you try? I'm like, but I don't have any experience. I've never been on camera. I don't think my Armenian's, good enough at this point. And then he was like, no, let's try. Come in tomorrow. And he will come in too. Let's try and see how it goes. I think it was Saturday. Yes, Sunday I went in for, to try out what's going to happen. And Monday we were on air.
Now,
and just like that.
And how did now you're 8 months in, compare the first show to now?
Oh, I was shaking. I was so nervous. Now I just go in, I put in my microphone.
Well, you're prepped, and but
even for the first show, I did prep as much as I could. But again, I've never been on camera.
The adrenaline and the heat of the lights.
It's crazy. And there's a lot of things that you don't know about when you're just watching TV. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. And yes, it's incredibly...
you don't know that the sound machine goes out 3 times during an episode, and you have to still...
Yeah, or when you can't hear the director, and you're on air, and you're, waiting for him to, give you a cue and, what to do, and you're like, I'm live on air, and tell me what's happening, and you just, don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, so your show being a live show, because I've done a couple live shows, and... Wow,
everything happens.
Every time there's a new problem.
Yes.
Every time. It's unbelievable.
Every single day.
How many new problems there are when you do a live show.
Yes, that's what keeps it interesting, I think. And also, my co-host and I we do obviously kind of read the same news because we have similar sources.
Yeah.
But then we don't discuss anything prior to the show.
Well, that's why, I didn't want to talk to you much upon entry because there is a level of freshness. Like when you talk about something for the first time in a group type setting, you can't recreate that spicy, fresh feeling of when you first bring up some information.
Yeah, and then sometimes if I know what's a sensitive topic for him, I'll just specifically talk about that. I'm let's get a reaction out of it.
Yes, well now you know that stuff. You didn't know any of that before.
I learned how to interview people. I learned how to come up with questions, and I've never done that before. Again, when you ask me if I'm a journalist, I'm not, because I've never studied journalism, but I had to learn it.
But you're getting closer to. You're closer than you were 8 months ago.
Definitely closer, yes. And now I have more experience with it because I definitely had to learn while I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting experience, and that's what I'm saying. I got lucky, but I'm very lucky to have the opportunity to do it, and I'm also very privileged because I know not everyone just gets a call out of nowhere.
Well, absolutely. And like I say, it's where preparation meets opportunity. So give yourself the credit that's due. But I know it hasn't been all roses, what was, when you look back, what was one of those times that was just really hard? It was just you didn't know how you were going that tomorrow was going to happen? Because we all have those days.
I think it was during when the war started. It was very hard because as a morning show, it's my job to be all smiley and excited and bubbly. And even when we're talking about serious topics, we try to, be
a morning show.
Yes, be a morning show. And
you don't want people to wake up and want to, kill themselves.
So, the first thing I do, I sit in front of the camera and I smile because that's what I'm, that's what I've learned to do, smile at the camera. But then when the war started, obviously, the format of the show changed too. And it was very hard. And it was very hard to, first of all, read all the news because that was happening to my people. Even realizing that it's happening in 21st century when, just horrible things. And you had to read that. You had to know what's happening. But at the same time, you had to talk about it. You had to tell people. You had to tell how many casualties we had that day. And some reporters would even read out the names of the soldiers that passed away, and I could never do that.
Oh, that's hard.
That's hard. Or sometimes we would watch videos that were coming from Armenia that were covering the war and what's happening there, and I'm watching with the viewers because I can see, obviously I see what's on air, and I would just start tearing up mid video, and I had to gather myself because then I had to talk again, and it was very hard. And even after that, I had people that were in the front lines. I lost someone that I loved dearly, and you just had to.
You did.
Yes, and then you had to get up and go to work. And
so, were you working that day when the person?
No, I wasn't. I didn't go on air the next day because it was tough. But even now, sometimes I do. I guess it's called survivalist guilt when you know that you weren't there and you couldn't do much, but that yet someone you loved very much.
Sure, survivor guilt. Yes, yeah.
Their life, and it's still tough sometimes when I'm doing something that's super exciting and I feel happy. I catch myself feeling guilty for all that because I know that my people over there aren't experiencing the same thing and they're going through very tragic times.
Man, so I'm sure when some of the death slowed down, that probably made it easier to smile.
Yes. And I was,
Well, just it made your job probably easier to go into.
It does make my job easier because I think it also comes from the fact that I'm not taught how to behave properly on air. So my only option is to be myself. And I smile a lot.
Well, don't ever forget that's why you got hired, is to be yourself, not to be anyone else. Hopefully not. I don't.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but I even remember that. I was I feel like the people I grew up watching, they all had. I don't know how they are in real life, but they all seemed to have a persona, an on-air persona, and I didn't have the time to come up with mine. It's okay, who is my alter ego that's on air? And I was oh, okay, I guess it's just going to be me. However I am in real life, I'm going to be the same in the studio on air. And it kind of also was the same when I had to go on air during the war. But even then, there come times when it's so hard because most of your day is surrounded by the news of what's happening that sometimes you do want to smile. You do want to make a joke and make things lighter and easier, but you know that it's not appropriate.
Sure.
I had to.
Well, yeah, I'm the king of making jokes during inappropriate times. I understand it.
And I did get a few comments about me smiling. And honestly, it's such a weird thing, but people do sometimes comment saying she smiles a lot.
Well, people love to hate. They do. They find reasons and as life goes on, there will be plenty of reasons to not smile. So it's good that you have that, that your baseline is smiling, because it's just a very good place to be. Now, I guess, what would you say for anyone who wants to get into a position like yours? What do they like? Because I was raised by strong-willed, independent women, And not only do I look up and respect you, I think there's got to be some young Armenian girl out there who does watch you, who thinks you are, God, amazing. Like what did they do to get to where you are? I mean, and don't get me wrong, like you may not have intended to get here, but I think you had every intention of getting somewhere. Yeah. So what are your...
I think one of the most important things that I did in my life is I did things for myself. And I know it sounds very selfish, but it's very important to know if you're doing something, if you're doing it for your parents, if you're doing it for other people, if you're doing it for yourself. When I moved here, I was at 18, and obviously going to UCL or going to a university was going to be a big expense. And it was going to be a big time commitment, and I was already older than most of my, my classmates were going to be. And a lot of people told me not to do that. A lot of people told me not to go to a big school. Like, why don't you go to a private school? Why don't you study why don't you study nursing so you can become a nurse? And it's more, you can have a reliable job. But that was never my thing. It sounded right. Sure. It sounded like something that I probably should have done. But I think I was so stubborn because I knew what I wanted, and not in a selfish way. I worked so I could support help my parents, that I could support myself, and sometimes I can, allow myself to do one or two things that I just want to do because I'm 20. But I knew for a fact that I want to go to a good school. I knew for a fact that I want to
that's amazing.
Study language. I was so fascinated by it, and I was like, I know I'm probably not going to make a lot of money with that, but I want that. And honestly, that was the best choice ever. I had the best time at UCLA. I've met the best people ever. And I think that's also, it became a part of who I am, and it became a big, how do I say this? Like, it led me to where I am now. I definitely would not be here if I didn't make the choices I made before. Sure,
and that's exactly what I wanted to get to, like those choices. Like you were saying, you were probably were being pushed in a lot of different directions, and you chose a path that not only you felt was right for you, it's what you wanted. And I think that is something that I hope people take away from your lessons, that no matter, what adversity, you're facing, if you really want something, just stick your head down and grind, right? Yes.
It's very important because I think also as an immigrant and as an immigrant woman, I've been told a lot of things that I can't do. And at certain points it did get to me, it did upset me, because I don't know, it was so unfair for me that I can't do certain things because of my background, or I can't, I was always very, I don't want to say embarrassed, but self-conscious of my accent. And now thinking that I'm sitting here talking to you, and I don't even think about the fact that, I have an accent and people might say something about it. But at some point, it did stop me from doing a lot of things.
Well, and that's, we all have our things that we get self-conscious about. So that's a battle that I think we all fight. It's just comes in different forms.
It does, but then it's another layer of, it's an added thing. I didn't have that when I was back home in Armenia. I didn't have that issue, but then I was like, oh, okay, here's another obstacle I have to overcome. But if I can give one advice, it's like, don't let things like that stop you, because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. Sure, some people might notice my accent, but I think that's not the thing that I hope that's not the thing people remember about me.
Yeah, hopefully not. But if they do, that's fine too.
No, it's not.
Oh, yes. Well, trust me, people remember a lot of things about me, and sometimes it's how annoying I was, and that's okay. That's okay. Take from whatever because as long as you're putting out your best foot forward, what people decide to, I've quit worrying about that, because I do my best. Like, every experience that I have with people, I try to make it as meaningful as possible, because not only do I not know when it's going to all end, but that is the only way I think I know that I can sleep at night. Like, I did my best that day. I gave as much as I could, and that's why sometimes I have a terrible time sleeping, because I have to slow the brain down and I have to calm down sometimes. Like, how do you, especially you do a 5 days a week show? Someone, what time are you getting into studio? 7 a.m.?
Oh, no, I get there at 8:30.
8:30?
Yes, we start at 9:30.
Okay, so
we start later than most morning shows.
So you're up 7 a.m. probably every day.
6:30, yes.
Okay.
Hair, makeup.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot. How do you calm your mind sometimes and refocus? I mean, you got a lot of young, spry energy in you, but you still got to, the mind gets busy and full.
Sometimes it's impossible to do. I just stay up all night.
Really?
Yeah, it happens, especially if I read because I do prepare the night before too. So I try to do as much as I can the night before, prepare for the show, and then in the morning I just update the news, see what happened, because especially with the time difference with Armenia, there's 12-hour time difference, so a lot happens during the night here. And sometimes if I do read something that, bothers me or worries me, it can cause me not, to lose sleep. But honestly, most days I'm just so tired that I just...
see, that's great. You're exerting all your energy. See, that's why I feel like I'm not exerting. If I'm tossed, it's because I haven't exerted enough. I haven't done enough. Yeah. See, that's why.
Both happen, but most days I'm just so tired that I just go to bed. Because the morning show is not the only thing that I do. It's not that I'm done at 11 when the show is over. I do other things too.
And what else do you do? The way you said that, I have to ask.
Well, right now, a lot of different. I'm a part of different projects that have to do with Armenia.
Armenian-based project. We'll see. That's what. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's wonderful. Now, are you the face of these projects?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I just wasn't sure that now that you're almost a journalist. That
famous journalist.
Yeah, almost a famous. Yes, precisely. I get it. No, trust me. When the world comes back and I will get you and everyone that you work with free tickets to the Improv. You'll come see me. You'll have a one. Okay, now this is a serious question.
Okay.
Who is the most famous Armenian comedian?
The most famous Armenian comedian.
Who's the most famous Armenian besides the Kardashian?
That's such a hard question.
I don't know. Because the one that comes out, the Kardashian, that's the most famous.
The most famous.
Right? Of Armenians, right? Yes. I think so. I think they got that locked up. Who's number two?
I don't know. Well, Tate Shahinyan is Armenian.
Oh, come on. That's number two to Kardashian? That's a big jump. That's a big... That's a big jump.
Now I'm embarrassed. I hope no one in the community is watching.
Yeah, they're like, what? It's me. I don't know. This is a new show. I don't know how many Armenians are going to protest this appearance on the Brian Moreno Show.
If I'm not on air tomorrow morning, what happened.
Because
I can't think of any names. It's so embarrassing.
There's one comedian, Vinny Oshana. I believe he's Armenian. He's not that famous, but
I was gonna say.
No, he's just a local guy but I don't know. I was in my mind. I didn't Google this because I wanted to know someone who had their feet on the ground in the Armenian community.
Not anyone that's well known here.
No,
Obviously,
but that's it. The Kardashians, they have swallowed up all top five. No, they're not. Yeah. They're just. I mean, sometimes it's comedy. I've seen enough of the Kardashians to know that sometimes that is comedy.
That's the first thing people ask me when they're like, "Oh, you're Armenian, like the Kardashians."
Oh, the System of a Down is Armenian.
Yes,
System.
System of a
Okay,
Down, yeah,
I didn't know that, but I did know.
Yes.
I think I'd heard System of a Down is
Yeah.
Armenian.
All four of them.
Oh,
are
and
Armenian.
that's a good band. Like they rock. Now, would you listen to System of a Down at all?
I have a few songs that I listen to. but
Now,
I
do you
can't, you know.
support them because they're Armenian, or you like the
I
songs?
started listening to them because they were Armenian. Because like I remember.
Because you
I was
don't. I look like a System of a Down listener. That's all.
Yeah. No, I'm really not. I think I was in like 6th grade or 5th
Sure,
grade.
yeah,
like we found out that like there's this band in the U.S. and they're Armenians and they looked very different. And I was like, oh my God, let's listen to their songs. And I was like, no, I don't.
Well,
know
yeah, I
this.
mean, sure.
But then
Killing
later
in the
life-
name of, right? Yeah, like that was probably, you're probably like, what are they talking about? This is so loud.
Yes, and I couldn't understand. It was just like someone screaming. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna be proud that they are Armenians and they're doing something. out
Yeah,
there,
I'm
but I
just
don't
gonna
understand.
buy the song. I'll put the 199 on it.
Yes.
It was Apple iTunes at the time. You probably had to buy. And everything that I like, I got to figure out what I'm doing to this soundboard. We've done an hour and 10. Like, do you feel like you've said like your story? Because I wanted to hear some of your adversity.
Okay.
All right, that you and I didn't really get, because you came. When they come to America, they have so many obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw it firsthand with my mother. And I think this land, in my eyes, was made for people like you, like to come and start a new life and make opportunities for themselves that they not only would have never had, that they envisioned, and that's why I bring up the manifest destiny thing. And I don't think I touched on some of your personal struggles, but that's the one thing that I before you leave, I'm curious because you're basically, from what I take, it's 8-9 years you've been grinding it out, and there's no way it's all been peaches and cream. Like in that 8-9 years, I mean, before you get that phone call, were you content? Were you happy? Like, and things have just gotten better? I don't know. Like, and that's okay if that's the story. And I don't like to pick out, but I believe good character usually comes from getting broke down and beat down and rising up and figuring out what you're made of. I believe that good character, like that is one of the genesis points of good character.
I believe so too. Well, it's one thing that I wanted to say. It's very interesting how you said before getting the call, were you happy? Were you content? Like if getting the call would like solved all of my problems.
Well, yeah,
obviously not.
Sure, of course not. Yeah,
It's just my problems changed.
yes.
I had to deal with things that I didn't have to deal before, and I stopped having to deal with things that I was dealing before. It like my life did change after I started going on air 5 days a week. But as to what I had to overcome to get where I am right now, and it's not even only regarding to my job, because I have like a personal life, I have friends. Initially it was very tough because I did move here not knowing the language, not having anyone, not having any friends, and in the beginning just connecting with people was very difficult because I came from a different background and I had a very different worldview. I did not listen to the same songs. I didn't read the same books that kids my age read here, and I was like, okay, how can I find something in common to connect to someone? Because as a human being, you want that. No matter who you are, you want that connection. And I think that was one of the major difficulties that I had to face after moving here. That finding my people, finding people that I could I could like relate to. And it's also why I became so close with my parents, with my brother, because at some point the four of us were just the only people we had. We had to like stick to each other and help each other and encourage each other to keep going. And I know that there were times that it was incredibly difficult for my dad. There were times where it was very difficult for my mom. There were times where like I almost, broke down. I wanted to move back because things just weren't going in the direction
See,
that I
that's
wanted
what
to.
I'm curious about. Yes.
I growing up in Armenia, and I was 18 when I moved here. I didn't have to work. It was not. I didn't have to worry about that because my dad was working. He was, taking care of us. But then moving here, obviously, we had financial difficulties, and I realized that it's time for me to step up and find a job and start working. But I didn't know how to balance my life then. I never had to do that. And I had to learn. I had to learn how to work and go to school. I worked from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then I was taking evening classes and weekend classes. And I came here wanting to go to school, but then I had to work. So school became kind of a secondary thing. And that was very upsetting for me because I was passionate about it. I wanted to learn. I wanted to like achieve things, and I had to delay it for a while because I couldn't go to school full time. I had to do it part time, and until I worked enough, I saved up enough where I could afford to apply and go to good school, and then I think that's when things started. So that's if anyone's moving to the U.S., well, like don't think that things are gonna happen quickly.
And it's not just the people moving to the U.S. That like everything in life is everything worth doing takes a lot of hard sacrifice and struggle. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption. I think about that scene where he tunneled through the shit to get it like that. Is what life is. And sometimes you make it through to the other end and sometimes you don't, but you have to try.
You definitely have to try. Definitely. Because I think it's better to regret what you've done than regret what you haven't done. And I just kept trying until something happened.
See, that makes me, now I feel like I've come full circle with this interview because you have a very rosy way of looking at life. And I think your disposition, like you should give your parents a ton of credit, but you should also be very proud of yourself because you have every reason to be, not as nice and as welcoming. And like we all have, there's a lot of sour people, and there's a reason why the executive asked you to be on air, because I can totally see why your personality transitions that way. Like your ability to process information and do it with a smile is it's not easy to do. And I think that is, no. That's something you should thank your parents or whoever you got it from. Maybe it's in your DNA, but thank them because they did a wonderful job. And I think they should be very proud of you. And I think that, that it's a testament to all young women out there because I know how many, look, men have to do better in the way that men have treated women. How they, certain walks of life have been so alienated from people just because of gender, and that men have to do better. And I think some of the struggles that you've gone through, even yourself, it's been because men have been pigs. And they, and they choose that path, and that's not the way it has to be or the way it should be. But for any strong-willed, independent woman, they have to battle that fine line of being called a bitch or being career oriented when it really shouldn't ever be that way.
Exactly.
And I think your ability to do it with a smile, because all the stuff you've told me has been rosy, and I know, it's not rosy. And right there, I saw the pain in your eyes, and you there, because I'm sure there had to be nights where school and work and wherever you had to go back to, and your phone bill and everything, like it was all a lot. And that is the struggle that I think a lot of people, they forget about, and they don't, they don't give enough credit to, because it is so important that you're willing to do that, And did you ever have when you say you thought about moving back to Armenia, did you ever really have a plan B? Like this was. Did you ever really think about that, or was it just when the nights got really dark? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I did think about it, but I never actually planned it, because I knew that at that point I wouldn't find what I was looking for back then either. So for me, it was like...
It was more of just going back to what you know.
Yes, going back to what is more, I guess, familiar to what I've known. And I remember it's something that my geography professor said at my community college. He said that even if you run to a different city, even if you run to a different country, you can run from yourself. And it kind of resonated with me. I'm like, okay, so if I'm not happy here, if I'm having difficulties here, I most likely will have problems if I move back too, because I'm not the same. I'm, even living here for a year, I wasn't the person that I moved here, because I had to deal with a lot of things that I didn't have to deal back home, and that changed me. And even now, it's very interesting when people tell me, people from like back in Armenia tell me that I've changed, because I have, and I'm so proud of it. I think that even if I changed in a way that they didn't want me to change, that it's that change that helped me go through the things that.
But it's also, and sometimes change has a negative connotation, but change is a natural course of life.
As long as you're growing.
But I would like to say you've also evolved, and that's one thing that's kind of, people do change, and not all change is evolution. But when it is, you should be proud. And some people, they hold it against you, because a lot of life is your friends, they want you to stay, or not even friends. People want you to stay down there with them. They don't want you to rise up, and it's unfortunate. And that is some of the jealousy that I think maybe I was alluding to before. Yes. That, like I say, I think
I just don't want to see it that way. Not that I don't want to see it that way. I think what I've learned is that I choose to remember things that make me happy. See how you were saying things I was talking about with Rosie? Because I don't want to make my life miserable by, remembering the bad things. Obviously, they happened. There were a lot of those incidents in my life. And even before moving to the U.S., I don't want to make it seem like, life was horrible after I moved here. Obviously, it's not the case. But I think you choose to, it sounds so cheesy, create your own happiness. But it's so true, because you choose to remember the good things in life.
I have to tell you, though, it's easier said than done for you, because I think you're very naturally good at it. I tend... And it's sometimes, maybe it's why I became a comedian. It's because, I remember my failures much clearer than my successes. And I don't try to lament them and dwell on them. I try to grow from them.
Yes.
But there's sometimes when you're in the moment, oh man, it
sucks.
It's hard. Yeah. It becomes very hard. And to be able to not necessarily block it out, but to see the positive in things, that is a gift. And it's, God, I'm sure you spread that to other people in your morning show. So you should be you should be very, very happy to know that I know you do that. Like, I can tell you, like, look, one of my gift and my curses is being able to see people. It's like I say, it's because I look inside so much. And you definitely bring happiness to people in times when there may not be a whole lot to be happy about. So please, no, please remember please remember that about yourself. You are, because I actually rolled my notes up and I wrote your name out phonetically. So that's how I got it so good. Like I have tricks. Okay. Before comedy, before all this, I was the West Coast public relations manager of the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. Words, American words, English. English.
How does it work?
English.
I should teach you the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if that would help my comedy at all. But Tate, and to say your last name?
Shahinyan.
Tate Shahinyan. PanArmenian television, and where would say I wanted to tune in. How would I tune in? I don't know. Is it online? Is it on cable?
No, it's a hard question. Is it embarrassing that I don't know?
Well,
it's channel 10.1, but
it's one of the open air 10.1. It's
open air, but I don't know if we're on cable.
Okay, well, no, the 10.1. Then I can explain. No, okay. that's I can explain. So these are, these are channels like because I guess it would have been 15 years ago or so, everything had to go digital, all the broadcasting. And these are channels that the government has set aside for free broadcasting. For people to be able to have these kind of these networks and these shows that are very specific to people, but so that it was that the networks wouldn't monopolize the flow of information. So if you wanted to tune in, you would get yourself a digital receiver, and all you do is you plug it in the back of your TV, and it'll automatically and then 10.1.
Yes, USArmenian TV, and I'm on air every weekday from 9:30 to 11. It's called PanArmenian Morning.
See, now we have an explanation. And if you need your cable installed, you can message me on the YouTube.
And we're also live on Facebook. So if you find our page, USArmenia's page on Facebook, we are live on there every morning.
Please make sure to send me your Instagram, your Facebook, all that stuff. I keep that in the comments because this will live in the ether, forever. And if people ever want to find you, the Facebook 10.1. And on Facebook, what is the Facebook page? What is
USArmenian TV?
USArmenian TV.
Yes.
Super.
We are like an Armenian channel, so all our shows, programs are all in Armenian. I mean, we do have here and there.
Are there Armenian soap operas?
Yes.
Are they as corny as like telenovelas?
Yes.
That's what I would probably watch to learn the language if I had to.
You just need subtitles. Well, subtitles help.
Yeah, they do, but that's why when you said that, I was like, I never had subtitles in some of the places, and I would just have to watch, like, tape my eyes open so my brain didn't explode.
That's why I loved Netflix back then, because I could have the subtitles on.
Back then, don't talk like you're old, because that means I'm even older.
No, I meant when I started learning English. I still do that. Now I can turn them off. Subtitles on. But yeah, thank you for having me. It was my first time on a podcast.
Oh, well, I actually call this a show.
Okay.
Like, because it would be a video cast, if anything, but I'm like, that's a show. Have you ever watched a show? Like, podcasting is just AM radio. God, it blows my mind. All these people get a microphone and, I got a pod. That's AM radio. This is a show with questions and I showed
what I meant is I'm used to interviewing people, and then I was sitting here answering questions. And honestly, I was so nervous. I'm like, I hope I'll say the right things, because I've seen how nervous my guests get sometimes on the show. And now I was on the...
Well, this is high pressure situation. Like, I get right to it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I usually do too, because we are live. So people walk in, I'm like, okay, microphone, sit down. Hi, how are you?
Yeah. Well, and it's also...
We jump right in.
Yeah, it's the ability to read and react. You know, like I had my notes, but they got rolled up into a scrunchie. It didn't do me any good. So you have to be able to think on the fly. And I think one of the things that if people who want to get in this business, who want to be behind camera, and I think you'll probably agree with me, being adaptable and trusting your instincts is a really hard thing to do. But that's what live teaches you, because your ability to see what you're going to say and trust it has probably gotten exponentially better.
Yeah, trust yourself. That was something that I was struggling with in the beginning, because I didn't think that what I have to say is worth saying. But then at some point I just realized that, no, I have to trust myself. I have to trust the preparation that I've done before. I have to trust the knowledge that I have about it. And yeah, say it.
And that's a hard thing to do.
It is. No, it takes a while.
Oh, man, you should have seen me when I first started comedy. I was so bad. Like, if you saw me when I first started comedy, you would have never come back to see me later. You'd be like, no, he's zero chance he's going to get good at this. So, yeah, and you have to trust the process. Like, there are going to be bad. You've had bad shows, right?
Oh,
and you're like so mad at yourself.
Yes. Oh, no, even today, honestly, it wasn't bad, but we usually get the countdown, like 1, 2, 3, you're on air. And for some reason today, because of like technical issues, we didn't get the countdowns. And then like next thing I look up and I see myself on the screen. I'm like, oh, hi. And you kind of have to,
roll with it.
And make it look like it was meant to happen. Just like it was like,
I was busy taking in some information.
Exactly.
Please give me a.
And the funniest thing is that I was taking selfies, and then I was like, put down my phone. Hi.
Oh, shut up! You were. Oh, so that'll sit within your craw a little bit.
Things like that happen sometimes.
That's very funny. I hope it was a good selfie.
Oh.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even. Because someone in the booth is like, put the phone down.
Because I usually know what's happening around me, and the director tells us when we're during the commercial, when we're about to go on air again, and that's the only time I get a break. Like those 5 to 7 minutes, I get to like reapply my lipstick, maybe take a selfie, drink some water, and then we're back on air again. And yeah, sometimes. And
I didn't even really get into COVID, but how has that changed? Okay, first of all, how has it changed like the protocols at your work, and what about people in Armenia? How bad did COVID hit? Really bad?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and especially it was bad during the war because obviously people close contact, distancing, they were wearing their masks. Now it's a little bit better in Armenia. But yes, it did hit pretty hard, and that's another thing. We got attacked during a global pandemic, which we were not prepared for at all.
That was actually in my notes, just so you know. I really wanted to get to that question.
We were battling both, both
that had to be. That had doctors, to be.
Imagine.
I couldn't imagine the strain that it put on the medical system, but also at the time, like, there's so much disinformation. You guys, like the Armenian and Azerbaijanis, are literally at war. And there's disinformation about the severity of the disease. So it's like, if there's even a hint of questioning, okay, I'm going to focus on the task at hand. Like, there's going to be zero concern about COVID. And I'm sure because of that, it probably spread.
It is. And that's something that I talked about on air too. I kept reminding our viewers that I know it's hard to be mindful of wearing a mask. I know it's very hard to be mindful of keeping distance, but you're actually helping the doctors that are helping soldiers. So, we kept reminding people to continue being careful and mindful of COVID as well. But for us, fortunately, we did, as I said, we did close down for a month or so because of COVID, because when the first hit, we still didn't know what's happening. Yeah. And then after that, we're just social distancing. So my co-host and I do quarantine for the most. So I'm not around a lot of people. Even if I am, I wear my mask. I socially distance because it's not only for me, it's also for him, because we are in the same studio. But besides that, there's only one cameraman, and he's far from us. So we just follow the rules, all the guidelines.
Well, see, that's great. Do you feel like you got COVID ever?
Yes.
Well, I did in March. Remember Remember when Rudy Gobert, Minnesota and Utah basketball game got canceled, and that one basketball player touches the microphones? Do you remember that? That's when the world changed. Was March 14th.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I was performing across the street in Salt Lake City, sick as shit. Oh, the show must go on at that time.
We
right?
didn't know what we're getting into. Right?
No, like I had to finish my weekend gigs, you know?
Yeah.
Like I had, and they cancel everything. I fly home. I quarantined. I mean, it was, it was rough. It was a sickness. So that's why stay healthy, please. Stay safe, everyone.
Yes, wear your mask.
Yes, Tate, you are a man amongst boys. Like I totally it has been a pleasure to have you here. Anytime you ever want to come back, you ever want to promote anything, you're always more than welcome.
Great.
And I would love when the world comes back, you and all your people, you come and let me make you laugh. I won't have any Armenian jokes. Yes, but yes, I'll have plenty of other material for you guys.
Thank you so much. I had a blast today.
I have to say, this was a lot of fun. You have been an absolute delight. I have remember the whole song story.
Hopefully next time I'm here, the song will change.
Well, it will, but it's such a, this was supposed to be Thanksgiving music, and I was like, it's kind of spooky, but Christmassy, and it was $29.95, so I'm getting my money's worth. Tate, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Every piece of information will be in the bio. You make sure Roberto gets it. This has been the Brian Moreno Show.